The Rock Metal Podcast, episode 116 with Dustin Behm. Rock Metal Nation, what is up? This is John from the Rock Metal Podcast. That sample you just heard was Alien Voodoo by Dustin Behm, who I've got on the show with me right now. No joke, he's a shredding balls instrumental prog metal guitarist from Oregon, USA. I'm going to be listening to that song as well as one other while finding out more information about what he's got cooking. So Dustin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John.
Absolutely great to have you on. Let's go and listen back to that track, Alien Voodoo. All right, coming back from Alien Voodoo, I'm pretty sure it's a guitar, but I love how it's kind of, Alien Voodoo, and it's got like this UFO-esque sounds in the beginning, and then it just, bam, it just hits you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, some kind of interesting little synth stuff in the beginning, some clean chords, and then yeah, that freight train coming in. So
Now I'm curious, is that, I guess, is that what you call it? Bam, here's another freight train. Here's the freight train coming in.
Yeah, it's you know, it gets pretty heavy, you know, extended range guitars and everything, and you know, this hammering drums and everything. It's a little more of a groovy track.
Yeah, you mentioned some extended range guitars. Do you want to maybe chat about that for a second? Is that like 7-string, 8-string? What is that?
Yeah, well, for this album, I'm actually using a 7-string that's tuned down. So it's sort of almost, you could say, in between an 8-string and a 7-string for the entire album, except for the last track, which I played an 8-string on. And I also play an 8-string in my other band and create from time to time. So,
okay. I guess big question for you is, what inspires the use of a 7.5-string?
Yeah, well, you know, just a little bit of extra crunch, a little bit of extra balls on there, and you know, just having more range, really. You know, it's just more room to do activities, more room to have fun on, and more room to create. So, you know, more notes to create with. That's not a bad thing in my book.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm curious, these are instrumental songs, but I mean, there's still, I'm sure, something that inspired Alien Voodoo. I'm curious, what is that inspiration behind, or maybe even a story that you're trying to tell with the music in Alien Voodoo?
Yeah, well, you know, Alien Voodoo is kind of the concept. I like to think of a lot of the guitar playing concepts as kind of unorthodox and, you know, alien type of licks and stuff like that. So, you know, a lot of the playing was inspired by that, you know, kind of alien, strange guitar sounds. And then as a song itself, definitely inspired by science fiction and, you know, horror and all that kind of stuff. I like a lot of movies, so.
Yeah, I was actually about to just ask if you were really into that kind of stuff or if it just kind of came out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I'm way into horror movies, especially like older horror movies, you know, 70s and 80s and 90s. And I really like sci-fi movies and stuff, also like older sci-fi and everything. So really sci-fi and horror were big inspirations for sort of the direction that I wanted to go on the album.
Let's go listen to the next track, Interdimensional Traveler. right, coming back. Speaking of something that you mentioned before about, having a little more straight rhythms and whatnot. Now, obviously, there's a lot going on in this track, but one of the things I loved about it, Dustin, was there's this point, I don't know if it's the verse, but you bust into what sounds like just some really fast guitar picking, and the drums are doing something in the background. It almost sounds like a counter rhythm. I'm probably just talking out of my ass right now, but either way, when you hit that, I'm like frozen. I'm like, there's like drool coming out of my mouth. I don't know if that's what you were going for. My face was melted off. I'm like, I don't even have a face anymore. There goes my modeling. But no, great track.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's definitely one of the more complex tracks. There's a lot of different things going on, a lot of stuff with the synths. I've got a lot of like intersecting, parts with the riffs going on. It's also got some variety as far as it's one of the fastest and sort of one of the slower songs, if that makes sense. Parts are fast, parts are slow. But yeah, it's one of the more intense tracks on the album, and it's actually the very first track that I wrote for the album.
Okay, now when you say it was the first track, did it set the stage, so to speak, for the rest of the album?
Oh yeah, most definitely. And it's kind of interesting too. I would say it's not only is it the first track that was written for the album, but it also is the track that probably evolved the most over time. Because initially it was more of a groovy track, more of a progressive track. And over time, especially, I actually got the cover art and everything before the album was completed. So once I obtained that, I was kind of like, oh, I got to, go a little bit darker with it, make it a little more metal, go a little faster with it. So that ended up evolving into a really fast track with a lot of shredding and blast beats and stuff like that, which it wasn't originally. But after I had heard that first track, I was kind of like, let's keep going with this and, maybe see what happens, see if I can get a whole album out of it. So that's what ended up happening.
Yeah. Now, did it all happen pretty quickly once that first track came, or was there still moments where you're kind of deciding the direction of the album?
Boy, it definitely, it wasn't consistent because I was working on it, kind of in my off time and everything. But once the album started coming together, I'd say maybe by the third or fourth song, the songwriting speed kind of picked up and things really started coming together once I, focused on a goal and got, sort of ambitious with it.
Those are great words. Goals, ambition, Dustin, Behm. These are all words that just flow together. Now, Dustin, what exciting news do you have coming up for Rock Metal Nation to pay attention to?
Well, let's see here. After the release of the Beyond this year, I'm working with my other progressive metal band, Increate. We've got a new record that's going to be coming out next year. And also going to be playing some live shows around the northwestern United States. So yeah, I'll be doing some live shows, got the Increate album, and then also be working on some material for probably another new project of some kind. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. Now, for Rock Metal Nation listening in who definitely dug everything that they heard today, for a bonus, if you go to today's show notes, that's www.therockmetalpodcast.ca, there is going to be a streaming link on YouTube where you can hear the entire album. So if you dug Alien Voodoo, you dug Interdimensional Traveler, you're definitely going to dig the entire album, which is available on YouTube. Now, the next logical question on Rock Metal Nation's mind is, where can they go on the web to keep in touch and find out more about you?
Well, you can go to smarturl.it/DustinBehm, and that's DustinBehm, and that's where my album is being sold. You can also stream it there. There's different outlets, Amazon, iTunes, all of that is through that link. You can also find it on my Bandcamp page at dustinbehm.bandcamp.com.
All right. Well, Dustin, unless there's anything else you wanted to throw out there, I just wanted to thank you for taking time out of your day to come onto the Rock Metal Podcast and sharing your awesome progressive creativity with Rock Metal Nation.
Awesome, man. Hey, thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate all you guys checking the album out and listening to this. The response has been really overwhelming, so it's really amazing for me, and I just appreciate it so much. So thank you for having me.
All right, Rock Metal Nation. Hopefully you just found your new favorite band in Dustin Behm. A big thanks again to them for coming on and sharing his music with us. Make sure to head over to www.therockmetalpodcast.ca to get all the information on the show you just heard today. And until then, rock on, Rock Metal Nation.